Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking a little bit more about apprenticeships and one of my spiciest opinions when it comes to apprenticeships. Now, it is no secret if you follow me on any social media platform that I feel very strongly about equality and equity when it comes to apprenticeships. I have spoken out at length about issues with abuse, hazing, harassment, and just problems with the apprenticeship system and model in general. I have been advocating tirelessly for the past couple of years to try and improve this system, make it safer for apprentices, and just all around make it a better system to get into this industry. That being said, I do have a take that is a little controversial, and I know some people are going to be a bit upset about. And that is that apprenticeships currently are pretty difficult to get for a variety of reasons. But I think that they should be difficult to get for a variety of reasons. So let's get into it, let's unpack it, why I personally think it should be hard to become a piercing apprentice. Now, to explain my reasoning for this, I want to take a look at some other industries that it is also hard and competitive to get into. My favorite analogy when it comes to piercing is talking about playing in pro sports. Now, tons of people grow up dreaming of being a professional sports player. They play football or soccer or basketball all throughout middle school, high school, and even college level. But they also realize very quickly that there are thousands and thousands of other people competing with them for the same limited number of spots if they want to be a professional football player, a professional basketball player, a professional whatever sport they prefer. The same can be said for trying to get into med school or becoming a lawyer. These are careers where, yes, a lot of people really want to do them, they dream of doing them, they grow up with that as their goal, and they realize very quickly there's a lot of competition, there's thousands upon thousands of other applicants, and there's almost always going to be someone who runs a little faster, lifts a little bit more weight, has a slightly better resume, did better extracurriculars in school, and it can be cutthroat to get into any of these positions and any of these careers. But we don't say, oh, it should be easier to play for the NFL. We don't say, oh, it should be easier to become a doctor. While there's very valid critiques of issues and problematic systems when it comes to getting into these lines of work, it doesn't necessarily mean that it should be easier to do it. These are very competitive careers and competitive industries. That competition is because they really want the best of the best to be who ends up doing these things. Piercing is very much the same. As someone who has worked as a manager for studios on and off over the last 12 years, I have fielded, no lie, thousands of applications for apprenticeships. And most piercers who are ready to be taking on an apprentice or considering it have people asking about apprenticeships every single week. The competition is incredibly steep. There are a lot of people looking to get into the industry, but there are a limited amount of piercers who have the time, the energy, and the ability to teach and teach well. So just like getting into pro sports or getting into a top medical college, there is going to be a lot of competition to become a professional body piercer, and not everyone is going to make the cut. But something that I've been seeing happen lately, especially on TikTok and on social media spaces online, is people who seem to think that they are entitled to an apprenticeship, or that anyone who is interested in becoming a body piercer should be able to go and find an apprenticeship and access one super easily. Now, there are very real issues with the state of apprenticeships today. We could talk about sexual abuse, financial abuse, hazing, harassment, the inequality that is produced by unpaid apprenticeships, the lack of equity in the industry, lack of diversity, lack of access to training and knowledge and care, especially when we look outside of the US. There is a ton of very valid critique to give to the apprenticeship model. But that is not the conversation that I am seeing happen. Instead, I am seeing people online saying, why can't I get a piercing apprenticeship? And it is the difficult truth, but not everyone is cut out to be a professional body piercer. If you are very socially anxious, if you struggle with social interactions and aren't able to overcome that, body piercing might not be a great career path for you. All we do all day is have social interactions with clients, and clients trust us to guide them through those experiences, to make them feel safe, to make those experiences comfortable and easy. I've had people ask about apprenticing with me who have openly admitted that they would like the least amount of interaction with clients possible. That's just not a good fit for piercing. Piercers also have so much to do on the back end. We have to set up and clean up, break down. We often do inventory. We do a lot of math and running the business and running numbers. There's a lot of prep work that goes into becoming a piercer. I will never forget a client who applied for a position at the last studio I worked at who was late to almost every appointment they ever made at the studio, regularly would forget their ID when they come in, and they were so sweet. They were a lovely client, but never on time, always very scatterbrained, would straight up no call, no show and miss appointments because they forgot about them. And when we passed on them for the position because we had seen no evidence that they could be punctual, arrive to work on time, remember their duties or assigned tasks, they were very upset and were like, well, I've been a client for a while, like you should hire me, you should give me this opportunity. Not if you can't even make it to your piercing appointments on time consistently, or remember to bring your ID in when you come in to get tattooed. Imagine, if you will, someone who wanted to play for the NFL, wanted to play pro football, and so they emailed every single team in the league asking them if they would hire them. This person never went to practices, never showed up to interview with the teams, had never even met most of the teams in person. They just emailed all of them and said, you should let me play. And then when they got rejected, would go online and say, this is ridiculous. It should be easier to play for the NFL. I don't understand why I can't get a position on a team. We would think that was pretty ridiculous, right? We would think that was pretty ridiculous. We would tell that person, it's competitive pro sports and you weren't really a good fit and didn't really do that much. But that is not the case with piercing and tattooing and similar fields. Instead, we have people doing exactly that, cold calling studios, sending canned emails. I've had people reach out to me and say, I don't really care who teaches me, I just want an apprenticeship. You don't really care who teaches you? What if someone is a bad piercer? What if you're learning incorrectly? How could you not care who teaches you? How could you be willing to put your clients' bodies at risk with getting a bad education and a bad apprenticeship just so you can have a career? And what gets me, what made me want to make this video, is that I'm not seeing people having real conversations about the actual issues when it comes to apprenticeships. I'm not seeing people going online and complaining about the fact that apprenticeships are still largely unpaid and the fact that that is illegal and it's unethical and it's a huge limiting factor to who can be in the industry. I'm not seeing people talk about rampant issues with sexual abuse, hazing, and violence in apprenticeships. Quite the opposite. I have people going online who are saying, I would totally work an unpaid apprenticeship if I could just find one. I don't care if I get rushed through a 3 or 4 month apprenticeship as long as I can get my foot in the door and get started. Not only are these people not talking about valid critique and valid issues with apprenticeships in the industry, they're actually saying that they would continue the very systems that make apprenticeships flawed and have problems. They would be willing to work unpaid and accept poor treatment in their apprenticeship in exchange for just getting their foot in the door. The priority for all of these people is entirely self-centered. They just want their dream career as a body piercer, and they're not thinking about how these decisions affect the industry as a whole, everyone else who does this, and most importantly, the clients who suffers when someone has a bad apprenticeship or incomplete education, who get bad piercings, unsafe piercings, and have problems with them. The issue is simply wanting to be a piercer or being passionate about being a piercer doesn't mean that you're going to be a great piercer. It doesn't mean that you're a right fit for this industry. There are some people who are passionate about medicine and passionate about becoming a doctor who would be a terrible fit to be a doctor. And so many folks who are passionate about a sport or an activity, but that doesn't mean that they are at a level to play in the Olympics or to play in a top league. Just being passionate is not all it takes to be successful at a lot of these careers, and I think that's okay. When we are piercing, we are being given so much trust with clients' bodies, with their health and safety, with their emotional and mental well-being, given the vulnerability and the energy exchange that goes into this. It takes a very specific person to be a good fit for doing that sort of thing. And if we have a candidate pool of thousands of people to pick from, we should be picking only the best and choosing to pass this along to the people who are going to be the best fit, the best piercers, and capable of doing the best work. And that's simply not going to be everyone. And it's okay. It's okay that some of these careers and some of these jobs are highly competitive like this. No one is just entitled to work in some of these very competitive fields, especially if they wouldn't be a good fit. I think unfortunately a lot of people just view piercing as a cool, fun job, or they just want to be able to have a lot of piercings and tattoos at work, and don't really take seriously how much goes into doing this work, how much else they're going to have to learn, and how much goes into actually providing a good, safe, clean piercing experience for someone. I am the first person and the loudest person to talk about the fact that the apprenticeship system is incredibly flawed. It has a lot of issues, it has a lot of problems, and we need to do a lot of work to overhaul it. But even with all of that work, even with fixing things like paying your apprentices a living wage, treating them well, reasonable work schedules, better access in certain communities, I still don't think that it should be easy to get an apprenticeship. At least not if there's this many people interested in getting into the industry. If we have the ability to choose from this vast pool of qualified candidates, we should be opting to choose only the best, and I think that is completely okay. Especially because when I look at people who are applying to become piercers, who are interested in apprenticeships, I often see a lot of people who have very little interest in the sterilization and the sanitation and the boring parts of what we do. I see people who don't really have a good grasp on what it means to work with people's bodies all the time. The amount of people who have applied to apprentice or work at my studios, and when I've checked out their social media, they post body shaming memes or like and follow pages that mock and make fun of people's bodies. That is not something that we need in the industry. That's not something that we need in any industry, but especially not one where you're being trusted to work on people's bodies. Many folks are not interested in the history of body piercing and body modification at all. They have no interest in doing the work to decolonize the industry, to make the industry more accessible and return elements of the industry to its roots, and they have no interest in trying to combat cultural appropriation in the industry. That's not something we need either. We unfortunately already have enough of that. And I see a lot of folks who just aren't very good at being punctual, time management, staying on top of things, just these back-end skills that are so crucial for a body piercer to have that some folks just are completely lacking. And there are a lot of other careers where those people will fit in very well and do very well and succeed and thrive. It is okay that piercing is not one of them. So while I hope that there is a major overhaul and major changes to body piercing and especially apprenticing over the next 5, 10, 15 years, I also hope that it still stays hard to get an apprenticeship, and that only people who are really truly the right fit for this career, only people that have the utmost respect and care for their clients' bodies and the amount of trust we get given as body piercers, are able to become piercers. And I think that it is completely okay for this industry and many others to be very competitive. I'm super interested to see how the comments on this one go and see what other folks think and if they agree, if they disagree, what the case may be. So let me know down in the comments. And if, like me, you do feel very passionately about the very valid issues that exist within the apprenticeship model and how much we do need to improve when it comes to that, some things that you can do are become educated in wage and labor law, especially for your local areas, and share that education with folks around you, especially folks in the industry or interested in getting in the industry. Make sure that people are not going to go ahead and give their free labor away to studios and work unpaid, because the more people who continue to do that, the more we enable these studios to have these bad, predatory, and abusive practices. Do what you can to only support studios and piercers who pay their apprentices, who pay them a fair and living wage, and support their apprentices in the way they deserve to be supported. Support survivors of abuse in this industry and support people who come forward to speak out about these issues, and do what you can within your local community to support survivors of abuse. There is very real, very concrete work that we can do to try and improve the apprenticeship system, and those are just some of the things that are beneficial. Thanks so much for listening to me rant just a little bit about my feelings with apprenticeships, and I can't wait to sit down and chat again soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!